George Janko has just interviewed Andrew Tate, and it was surprisingly really good, because George was able to give interesting questions to Andrew Tate to actually make him think. Ones where Andrew Tate didn't have to defend himself all the time, but he could see his true self.
To be honest with you, and I actually respect, and you give me a lot to think about. And without being arrogant, at my echelon, it's not often I sit down with somebody and they say something that makes me think. But you've given me something to think about, and I genuinely, I'm going to think about it.
And looking at the comments, everybody agrees. And I think that last comment completely nails it for me. George 100% deserves this podcast. After all the passive-aggressive, abusive behaviour he suffered from Logan Paul, and by extension his fanbase, he has gone on to create content he actually wants to make. In my opinion, this is the greatest conversation that Andrew Tate has ever been given. As we all know, George was a part of the Impaulsive podcast. And it's clear the reason why he was fired off the podcast is because he had a different approach to interviewing guests.
I think the easiest way to explain it is I think that there just was a difference in style, a difference in approach, a difference in people. I think we were just very different people. He would just get like abused by like certain guests, and it was kind of like fucked, because you gotta understand. And
was it the Shaq episode or Bobby Lee?
Bobby, like you gotta understand it. And I think a part of that was based on like seating and also like the fact that me and Logan are such big personalities, so by way of him not being able to like super vocalize, he kind of like perceivably assumed the role of like the beta, which he wasn't. But like guests would, when they would get like kind of uncomfortable or whatever with conversation, they would turn and kind of pick on him.
It's like that's, you know.
Hold on, you ain't gonna ask me a question? Damn, you might want to give him his 2-week notice. That's the question, dude.
Honestly,
jeez.
Yes, I think we all know that it's more than just a different approach, and I have my own reasons to believe why he's not a part of it anymore, but let's keep away from that for now. But I think we also do know that Impaulsive is not the same style of podcast that George is doing now. Impaulsive, it feels like it's more of like LA shit, like you get porn stars on, you start talking about stupid shit that doesn't really matter. Rather, George's new show is stuff that actually does matter. Actual conversations, challenging each other on their own beliefs. Because as we all know, Logan Paul doesn't like Andrew Tate and religious people.
One that really hurt me is you told me I need a therapist because I believe in Jesus.
You need a therapist because Jesus isn't quite doing it for you,
no, you
which
didn't.
is true.
No, you didn't. I don't want to stand down. No, you didn't. When I think, I checked you and I said, what did you just say to me? And you said, what did I say? And you stumbled. You're like, I don't know. What would I say? And then you fumbled. Now, I'm not backing down from
It
this.
is common knowledge that you don't interpret reality like reality happens. And you heard that incredibly wrong.
But because Impaulsive was like seen as a podcast that not that serious, talking about viral moments in like LA, I don't think I was ever able to hear George's true side on any particular subject. And because he wasn't truly involved with most of the conversations on that show, many of the guests didn't even really respect it. And by the eyes of the public, many people didn't really see him as a good podcaster. But thanks to this interview, we finally know how good George is at doing a podcast and how intelligent he really is. As I truly do believe this is the best podcast interview Andrew Tate has ever done.
Everything you just said, I agreed with. Everything you just said, I agreed with. The only problem that I see is when you were like, shut up. Let me give you an example. Here's the reason why. Everything you just said was absolutely correct. And as a man, I could look at you, and if I had children, I'd be like, yo, listen to this man. He's being very, very correct. Now, my girl's gonna be like, well, why did he just tell his girl to shut the fuck up? Like,
I said shush.
Yes. But okay, let me give you an example.
I was dismissive with my hand.
Nah, I know, but you know what this means?
Flicking the diamonds.
Get the fuck out of my face.
That takes into account all the Piers Morgan interviews, there's some with BBC, and all the other ones on the internet. I truly do believe this is the best one that he's ever done, as I feel like he was able to express himself properly. But George was challenging at some points, but George was open to be swayed on his opinion, allowing it to be an open dialogue. But what I find amazing now is when George first announced that he was going to make his own podcast and leave Impaulsive, Logan Paul was the first one to mock it.
I love this outlet, and it exists because people watch, and without people watching, I just have a show like
insinuating the podcast would be shit because no one's gonna watch it because George is a bad podcaster. So for now, George to have a podcast with over 2 million views in the first 24 hours just really shoves it to Logan and just makes him look stupid and a bit of a knobhead. But there again, we already knew this. You see, this comment here completely nails it for me. I remember when Logan Paul mocked George for creating his own podcast. Nothing is better than a good underdog story. But what I truly want to know is what do you guys think about that podcast, because I thought it was insane and it's a good way to show you, even when someone says you can't do something, you can do it and you can do it better than them. Because we all know Logan was hoping and praying that George Janko's podcast will never fulfill to anything that he can do. So for him to do something that he will never do with it, which is an Andrew Tate podcast, it just really makes me happy that an underdog was able to bring it. So what do you guys think about this whole situation? And I'd like to see your perspectives in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.